Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit presents personal protection tips. As you all are well aware, this is a feature that I run on my YouTube channel under my name, Rick Ector. I provide personal protection training and consultations for my clients. I put together this video series in which I give tips to enable common everyday citizens to exercise a greater involvement in their personal protection and how to be secure during these perilous times. If you are interested in personal protection, by all means, avail yourself of this channel. Check out my videos. I do quite a few on a regular ongoing basis, and if there's a topic you have in mind, by all means shoot me an inbox on YouTube and I will get to it as soon as possible. Before we do today's personal protection tip, I want to ask that if this video was of any benefit to you, or any of the other several videos that I've independently produced and published on YouTube, by all means drop me some feedback, leave a comment, like, and subscribe to my channel. Okay, today's personal protection tip: do not assume that witnesses will help you. The thing that is most important for you to realize is that it is not the job of law enforcement, the police, the sheriff, hell, even the FBI, to protect you. They are law enforcement. Their job is to support general law and order and to enforce the laws, usually after the fact and well after the crime has been committed and people have been victimized. You see, in a nutshell, there have been no less than two U.S. Supreme Court decisions that have concluded and relayed to us that personal safety, your personal safety, is your job. It is your job to make sure that you are safe. If you have been victimized and you survive, in the aftermath, you cannot sue the police because you were beaten, robbed, raped, or worse. It is your job. Also, do not make the assumption that a bystander who witnesses your assault or your attack will be sympathetic and will come to your aid and assistance. And yes, this applies even if you are a woman, the practical, or shall I say proverbial, damsel in distress. There's at least one reason why that is the case. Before I get into this explanation, let me just say that domestic violence is a scourge in our society. In no way, shape, or form do I condone it, and I think that it should be eradicated from our community. It should come as no surprise that there are some relationships that are dysfunctional out there, and you might see an altercation between a man and a woman, and you may be tempted to be chivalrous and to come to that woman's aid. You know, when I was teaching a concealed carry class here in Detroit, my special guest speaker, a criminal defense attorney, was doing the legal section, and one of his pet phrases that he always drilled into my students was, know what you know. Okay? You see a man and a woman, there's some type of issue, there's a lot of yelling and screaming. You know, the natural inclination in the minds and hearts of some men is to go investigate and to involve himself in that disturbance. Well, I mean, you could do that, but there are some other alternatives available to you. There is this guy, and you may have heard of him. I'm not going to mention his name, but the story might be familiar here in Metro Detroit. Actually, he's a good friend of mine now. Back before I knew him as well as I do now, he was working at a venue, and the venue concluded its operations in the wee hours of the morning, after 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. And this coworker was having trouble with her vehicle, and being the chivalrous guy that he was, he came over and attempted to help her out with her tire, change her tire, be a good guy, be a hero, and all that other great stuff, which is cool. But there was a situation in which two guys, well, they saw her in this, skimpy Mrs. Santa Claus outfit, and they had ideas on what they wanted to do with Mrs. Claus. So anyway, my friend comes to the aid of this coworker, and long story short, the situation deteriorated rapidly, and he was forced by virtue of survival to produce his firearm and to defend himself and the coworker. He ended up shooting two guys, the two bad guys, but at the time, well, they weren't officially bad guys because no one had charged anyone with anything, and let alone no one had been inside the courtroom. Long story short, my friend was accused by the so-called bad guys of being the perpetrator of a violent assault in which two people were shot, and my friend was charged with 7 felonies. Well, about a year and a half later, and about $40,000 in legal fees, he was exonerated by a jury of all the counts that he was facing. He was facing 7 felonies. Well, I say all that to say this. In general, the general takeaway from the legal section in a lot of personal protection classes is to not get involved into altercations that you may witness, for the simple fact that you may not have all the pertinent information. You may see what you perceive to be an assault or some disturbance, but you don't know, to quote my friend, you don't know what you know. All you have is just a basic understanding of what you're seeing. Maybe some yelling, pushing, shoving, but who knows who's the bad guy and who's the good guy. You get involved, you jump in half-cocked. Heaven forbid you use your firearm and someone gets shot. You may find yourself facing criminal charges. I said all that to say this. If you are ever subjected to an assault or an attack, do not expect someone to come to your aid and to rescue you. Assume that you are on your own and that you must somehow save yourself. And there's a lot of different ways to respond to violent encounters. If you are violently attacked or assaulted, there are many things you can do, well outside the scope of this video. The bottom line is that you are responsible for your safety. That is your job. That involves a lot of things. You have to make sure that you are constantly aware of what's going on, assessing threats, removing yourself from the environment if necessary. However, if you do all of that, you may still be attacked. You may not have someone to come to your rescue and to your aid. If you keep this in mind, you may be tempted, or shall I say, you may be motivated to figure out ahead of time what you're going to do if you are attacked. Yes, yelling and screaming for help for bystanders to come to your aid, well, that's a solution. In today's society, I don't know honestly how successful that is going to be. I would suggest that you look a little deeper and invest in your training, expand your mindset, and assume that at some point in time that you are going to be targeted by bad guys who want to do bad things. Yelling and screaming for help is not a reliable solution. People may, believe it or not, in today's society, it's really weird, they may just decide to pull out their cell phones and just start recording everything, which seems to be fairly common in today's society. And your victimization may be documented in great graphic detail and even posted on social networking sites such as YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. But at the end of the day, you are still targeted for violence, and your safety is important. So you need to figure out what you're going to do. Do not assume that strangers and bystanders will come to your aid. That is a flawed strategy. Invest some time, training, and money to come up with a better and more reliable solution. This has been Rick Ector, legally armed in Detroit, Rick's Firearm Academy of Detroit, personal protection tips.